Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive.
Always fun to be back.
Today we're diving into a collection of philosophical texts, all in Spanish.
Oh, interesting.
They explore humanity's evolution and our kind of that constant search for values and meaning.
Yeah.
So we're going to be kind of taking a journey through time, tracing how different thinkers from ancient cultures to the modern era have wrestled with these big, questions.
Right.
What is human nature? What's the ideal society?
Mm.
And this all kind of leads up to a concept that you might not have heard before,
Okay.
but it's super relevant, especially today.
Yeah.
The idea of a community organized around a shared norma, a guiding principle
Okay.
for a better future.
Got it.
So think of norma as like your personal code,
Mm-hmm.
the guiding principles you kind of live by.
Yeah.
So, how have our ideas about human nature changed over time?
Right.
Could this norma be like the key to a more harmonious world?
Interesting.
Let's find out.
It's amazing how this quest for a norma, this search for a common thread of how to be better,
Yeah.
how to organize a better society,
Right.
has just resonated through history.
Yeah, it's a question that feels more urgent than ever, I feel like, these days.
Yeah, totally.
So where do we even begin to untangle all of this?
Well, our sources take us back all the way to ancient civilizations, right?
Right.
So we start with, trying to understand our place in the cosmos.
Right.
Early cultures worshipped inanimate objects
Oh, wow.
as representations of a higher power.
Right.
But then developed complex mythologies to explain the supernatural.
It's like we're hardwired to search for meaning to find our place in the grand scheme of things.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I'm guessing this search led to some pretty diverse ideas.
Yeah.
Maybe even conflicting ideas.
Totally. Yeah, we start to see that immediately. The Eleatics, for example, they focus on this idea of an unchanging, eternal being, whereas Democritus came up with the idea that we can actually explain existence through the constant movement of atoms.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Those are pretty different approaches.
Oh, yeah, completely different.
It kind of reminds me of how, today we have some scientists exploring string theory,
Right.
which is this incredibly complex theoretical framework, while others are focused on very practical applications of quantum mechanics. So it's different ways of approaching the same fundamental questions.
Yeah, a great parallel. Even back then, there wasn't just one way to understand reality.
Right.
And our sources also mentioned Parmenides,
Okay.
who went a step further
Mm-hmm.
and proposed this concept of a single god.
Wait a minute, a single god?
Single god.
Wasn't ancient Greece a polytheistic society?
Yeah.
So are we talking about early seeds of monotheism here?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
It's a really fascinating shift in thought.
Okay.
Speaking of intriguing ideas,
Yeah.
the Rig Veda, one of the oldest sacred texts in Hinduism,
Oh, wow.
poses this really powerful question. Who is the god to whom we shall offer sacrifice?
Wow.
It identifies this god as Prajapati, the father of the universe.
So even in these early texts, there's this desire to understand not only who or what God is, but also how we as humans relate to that divine force.
Oh, right.
It's like we're not just passive observers, we're looking for connection.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
And then there's logos,
Okay.
this key concept in Greek thought,
Okay.
often translated as the word or reason.
Okay.
It's this universal principle of order and intelligence that helps us figure out good from evil.
Right. So it's like this moral compass.
Yeah.
Helping us make sense of right and wrong.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we've gone from worshiping objects to grappling with the idea of God, from atoms to logos. We're really laying the groundwork for understanding humanity's place in the world.
Absolutely.
But how do we go from these early ideas to the concept of man as we kind of understand it today?
Well, that's where the Greek stage of our journey comes in.
Okay.
This is where things get really interesting with a whole cast of brilliant minds debating human nature and the ideal society.
Okay, I'm ready for some philosophical drama.
Yeah.
So give me the rundown. Who are the main players in this Greek intellectual showdown?
Oh, we got some big names coming up.
Okay.
But before we dive into the specifics, I think it's important to remember that The ancient Greeks were transitioning from a cosmocentric view to a more human-centric one.
Right, yeah.
And this shift really set the stage for Western thought.
That's a huge transition. It's
Yeah.
like going from feeling like a tiny speck in this vast universe
Absolutely.
to realizing that humans have the capacity to shape and understand the world around us.
You got it. And within this context, we have thinkers like Protagoras,
Okay.
who famously declared, man is the measure of all things.
Wow.
Right? So he's putting humanity right at the center of the universe
Okay.
and suggesting that truth and value are relative
Okay.
based on our individual perception.
That's a pretty bold statement.
Totally.
But wasn't everyone on board with that idea?
Oh, no, absolutely not.
I mean, the Greeks were pretty big on logic and reason, right?
Yeah, there was plenty of pushback.
Okay.
Plato, for example, argued that God, not man, is the ultimate measure of all things.
Oh, okay.
He believed in absolute and eternal truths
Right.
that exist independently of us.
So it's that classic debate between relative truth and absolute truth.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, who gets to decide what's right and wrong?
And that debate continues to this day, obviously.
Of course.
Of course, Plato was also famous for his vision of an ideal state.
Yes.
One based on order and harmony and justice,
Mm-hmm.
where everyone plays a specific role according to their natural abilities.
So philosophers ruling, warriors protecting, and artisans producing.
Exactly.
It sounds a bit like a social hierarchy to me.
Yeah, exactly. A hierarchy based on talent and capability.
Okay. Right.
And then we have Socrates, Plato's mentor,
Okay.
who relentlessly questioned everything,
Right.
challenging people to examine their beliefs and search for knowledge through reason.
He was like the original philosophical gadfly, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Always pushing people to think deeper.
Yeah, always poking and prodding.
I can see why he made some people uncomfortable.
For sure.
But that constant questioning, that's what drives philosophical inquiry.
Right.
It's not about having all the answers,
Yeah.
but it's about asking the right questions.
You're getting at the heart of it.
Right.
But let's not forget Aristotle, Plato's star pupil,
Yeah.
who had his own unique take on things.
Okay.
Famously declared, man is a political animal, emphasizing our social nature and the importance of community.
Right.
However, he also believed in a natural hierarchy, not just based on talent, but within humanity itself.
Hold on. Isn't there a contradiction there?
Yeah, well,
Like, if we're all political animals, shouldn't we all have equal standing in the community?
yeah, and that's the tension that that plays out through history.
Right.
And it's already present in these early Greek texts.
Okay.
Right. So Aristotle believed some individuals were born to rule while others were born to be ruled.
Oh, wow.
And he asserted that ethics ultimately culminates in politics.
So meaning the individual is subordinate to the state.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. Antisthenes,
Okay.
contemporary Socrates, pushed back on this,
Okay.
arguing that true freedom can't exist alongside this rigid ideal of humanity.
So we have this this clash between individual expression and societal order.
Totally.
A theme that still resonates today, right?
Absolutely.
It makes you wonder how we can balance individual freedom with the needs of a functioning society.
Yeah, you're raising a fundamental question.
Right.
And to add another layer to this discussion, we have Euripides, the playwright.
Oh, okay.
He presented the individual, like I, alongside the collective we, suggesting that humanity as a whole is the measure for individual existence.
So we find our own meaning within the context of humanity.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these different ideas connect.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here?
From the vibrant debates of ancient Greece, we're about to witness a major shift in perspective with the rise of Christianity.
Christianity, huh? So this focus on reason and man as the measure of all things is about to encounter a very different worldview.
Yeah.
I'm ready to see how this unfolds.
It's a real turning point in our philosophical journey.
Okay.
Let's dive into the world of Christian thought and explore how it reshaped our understanding of human nature and the ideal society.
Okay.
All right.
That's good.
So So far, we've explored how ancient cultures, viewed humanity in relation to the cosmos,
Right.
and then how the Greeks wrestled with the idea of man as the measure of all things.
Yeah, yeah.
But with Christianity, there's this profound shift towards a vertical, eternal perspective on human nature.
It's like we're shifting our gaze from the vastness of the universe and the complexities of human society to something higher, something beyond our immediate experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The focus shifts to man is image of God.
Right.
This idea reframed human value entirely.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not about our accomplishments or how we compare to others, but about a fundamental connection to the divine,
Right.
a reflection of something much greater than ourselves.
It's a powerful concept that's had a huge influence on Western culture, from art and literature to social and political movements.
Totally.
But how did this new perspective integrate with the existing philosophical landscape?
Yeah.
Was it just a clean break from the past, or was there an attempt to reconcile these different views?
Yeah, there were definitely efforts to bridge the gap between these different ways of thinking.
Okay.
One of the most influential figures in this regard was Thomas Aquinas,
Okay.
whose philosophical system known as Thomism
Yeah.
blended Christian thought with the ideas of Aristotle.
So he was trying to find common ground between faith and reason.
Exactly.
It was like he was building a bridge between two seemingly different worlds.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Right.
Aquinas saw reason as a gift from God, a tool that could help us understand both the natural world and divine revelation.
Okay. Right.
So he took Aristotle's emphasis on logic and integrated it into a Christian framework, suggesting that reason, guided by faith, could lead us to a deeper understanding of God and our place in the universe.
Okay.
But what's really relevant to our deep dive is Aquinas' concept of free will.
Free will, that age-old debate about whether we're truly in control of our choices or if everything is predetermined.
Totally.
It's a question that still fascinates and perplexes people today.
For sure.
Where did Aquinas stand on this issue?
Aquinas believed that free will was absolutely essential for morality.
Okay.
He argued that without the ability to choose between good and evil, there can be no real virtue or vice.
Right.
It's our choices, he believed, that define who we are and reveal our moral character.
So it's not just about following a set of rules, but about making conscious choices that reflect our understanding of what's right and wrong.
You got it.
Yeah.
And this idea of personal responsibility for our actions became central to Western moral thought.
Right.
But how do we balance this emphasis on individual choice with the needs of a larger society?
Yeah.
This is where Aquinas' view of the state comes into play.
Okay.
Unlike Aristotle, who saw the state as the ultimate authority over the individual, Aquinas believed the state's role was to create conditions that encouraged virtuous behavior.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
To help individuals make the right choices and develop their moral character.
So instead of the state dictating morality, it becomes more of a guide or facilitator, helping us make better choices and live more ethical lives.
Yeah, that's a good way to understand it.
Right.
It's like the state becomes a partner in our moral development, nudging us towards virtue rather than simply imposing rules from on high.
Right, right.
This idea has definitely shaped Western thought about the role of government and the relationship between the individual and society.
It makes you wonder how different history might have been without these Christian influences.
All right.
So we've gone from ancient cultures seeking a higher power to the Greeks defining man, and now Christianity introduces this concept of man as image of God and free will as the foundation for morality.
Yeah.
That's quite a journey.
Absolutely.
But our sources don't stop there, all right?
Yep.
Where does this thread lead next?
Well, from the rise of Christianity and its impact on Western thought.
Okay.
Our deep dive takes us through the Renaissance and into the modern era.
Okay.
Get ready for some major intellectual shifts.
Shifts. I'm all ears.
Yeah.
What was it about the Renaissance that shook things up so dramatically?
Well, the Renaissance was all about rediscovery and reawakening.
Okay.
Think of it as a return to the classical world of ancient Greece and Rome.
Okay.
So European intellectuals were looking back to those civilizations, finding inspiration in their art, literature, and philosophy. It was like unearthing a treasure trove of ideas and values that had been somewhat neglected during the Middle Ages.
So it was like a homecoming of sorts, like a return to those Greek ideals that had been kind of overshadowed.
Exactly. And with this rediscovery came a surge of creativity and innovation, but also a shift in focus toward the individual and the power of human reason.
So it sounds like the seeds of the Enlightenment are being sown.
Yeah, exactly.
Reason, individuality, progress, all those themes that came to define the modern world.
You're spot on.
Right.
One of the key figures in this transition was René Descartes.
Yes.
The father of modern philosophy. His famous declaration, I think, therefore I am, placed the individual, the thinking self, at the center of his philosophical system.
Descartes was all about that radical doubt, wasn't he?
Totally.
Questioning everything until you arrive at a fundamental truth that can't be doubted.
Yeah.
It's a pretty powerful concept.
Absolutely. And for Descartes, that fundamental truth was the existence of the thinking self.
Okay.
And this marks a significant shift from earlier philosophies that focused on external sources of knowledge or authority.
Right.
Right. So Descartes turned the spotlight inward, making the individual mind the ultimate source of truth and understanding.
It's like he was giving us permission to question authority, to trust our own reasoning abilities.
Yeah, in a way he did.
Yeah.
He laid the groundwork for the scientific revolution and the Enlightenment, those periods marked by a strong belief in human reason and the drive to understand the world through observation and experimentation.
This is all really fascinating. But you mentioned some major shifts during the Renaissance.
Right.
Was it all smooth sailing from there?
Not quite.
Okay.
So this renewed focus on the individual and the power of reason also led to a fragmentation of philosophy itself.
Oh, okay.
So it started to split into highly speculative science, driven by observation and experimentation, and practical philosophy, which dealt with ethics, politics, and the human condition.
So instead of one big unified philosophical system, we start to see specialized fields emerging, each with their own methods and areas of focus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this fragmentation, this tendency to specialize, continues to this day.
Right.
Different branches of philosophy often operate in isolation from each other.
Right.
Which can make it hard to see the big picture, to connect the dots and find those common threads that unite us.
That makes sense. We see this fragmentation everywhere, even in how we approach knowledge and problem solving today.
Yeah.
It's like we've become so specialized that we sometimes lose sight of the bigger picture.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Right.
And this brings us to another significant shift that emerges from the Renaissance and the rise of individual-centered philosophies. It's like the swing towards materialism.
The materialism, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like we went from seeking the divine to focusing on what we can see and touch.
Yeah.
On acquiring possessions and achieving worldly success.
Totally.
Is that what our sources are kind of getting?
You're picking up on the key themes.
Okay.
So to understand how this materialistic worldview took hold, we need to examine some of the key thinkers and intellectual movements that shaped this era.
Okay.
Get ready, because we're about to encounter some ideas that profoundly challenge traditional ways of thinking.
I'm ready for a challenge.
Right.
Bring on the philosophical heavy hitters.
First up, we have Marxism.
Okay.
A philosophical and economic theory developed by Karl Marx in the 19th century.
Okay.
It had a massive impact on global politics and social movements.
Right.
Marx offered a materialistic interpretation of history, arguing that all of human history can be understood as a struggle between different economic classes.
Okay.
He believed that the way we produce and distribute goods and resources shapes everything. The structure of society, our relationships, even our ideas about morality and justice.
So instead of abstract ideas or religious beliefs, Marx is saying, follow the money.
Yeah, essentially, yes.
Okay.
He believed that material conditions, the way we work and produce things, are the driving force behind social change and even our values.
Okay.
It was a radical departure from traditional ways of understanding history and society.
That's a pretty big claim.
Yeah.
But Marxism wasn't the only influential theory at the time, was it?
Of course not.
Okay.
We also have Hegelianism, developed by Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel.
Okay.
Unlike Marx, Hegel didn't focus solely on material conditions.
Okay.
He saw history as the unfolding of a grand rational process.
Okay.
And he believed that the state represented the highest manifestation of this process.
Yeah.
It's a complex idea, but essentially Hegel saw the state as an embodiment of God,
Wow.
the ultimate expression of reason and morality in the world.
Wow, that's a bold statement.
Yeah.
Elevating the state to a godlike status.
It is.
It sounds a bit extreme.
It's definitely a provocative idea.
Right.
Some have praised it as a powerful vision of the state as a force for good, right? An institution that can guide us towards a more rational and just world.
Right.
Others have criticized it, fearing the potential for the state to become an object of worship,
Right.
leading to the sacrifice of individual rights in the name of some supposed higher purpose.
It makes me think of those dystopian novels where the state controls every aspect of life and individual freedom is completely crushed.
Yeah.
It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power, even when it's presented with good intentions.
You're right to be wary of any ideology that elevates the collective over the individual without safeguards for personal freedom and dignity.
So we've got Marxism focusing on economics and Hegelianism elevating the state.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
where do individual people fit into all of this?
Right, yeah.
Are they just pawns in this grand historical game?
That's a question that many philosophers and social theorists grappled with.
Right.
In response to Hegel's state-centric view, we have Johann Gottlieb Fichte,
Okay.
who tried to create space for individual self-realization within a larger social structure.
Okay.
So he argued that individuals can develop their unique talents and contribute to the common good, even within the context of a powerful state.
So it's not just about blind obedience to the state. There's room for personal growth and meaningful contributions within that framework.
That was Fichte's argument. He believed in a balance between individual agency and the needs of the state.
Okay.
But at the same time, we see the rise of Romanticism,
Okay.
a movement that emphasized emotion, intuition, and a yearning for something beyond the material world.
Okay.
Figures like Friedrich Wilhelm Joseph Schelling highlighted a kind of dualism, a tension between opposing forces like reason and emotion,
Okay.
the individual and the collective,
Right.
the material and the spiritual.
So there's this philosophical tug of war going on. On one side, we have these materialistic theories like Marxism focusing on economic forces and Hegelianism elevating the state.
Right.
But on the other side, we have thinkers like Fichte and Schelling trying to preserve a sense of individual agency and spiritual longing. It's a lot to process.
It's a period of immense intellectual and cultural ferment, for sure.
Okay.
As we move further into the 19th and 20th centuries, this tension between materialism and idealism, between individual and collective, becomes even more pronounced.
Right.
And it leads us to the very crisis our sources are trying to address.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat.
All right.
What happens next?
Right.
Where does all of this lead?
Well, our sources suggest that this shift from idealism towards materialism resulted in a decline in spiritual values.
Okay.
Creating this widespread sense of disorientation and despair.
Oh, okay.
People started to feel lost in a world that seemed to have lost its moral compass.
Right.
It's a shared sense of meaning and purpose.
Yeah.
It's a crisis that impacts both the individual and society as a whole.
Decline in spiritual values, disorientation, despair.
Yeah.
It sounds like a full-blown existential crisis.
That's a very apt description.
Yeah.
And our sources describe this crisis using vivid terms like insectification and nausea.
Insectification and nausea, those are pretty strong words.
They are.
What exactly do they mean in this context?
Well, Insectification refers to the feeling of being reduced to a mere cog in a vast impersonal machine.
Right.
Of losing one's sense of individuality and purpose.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's a feeling of being dehumanized, stripped of one's dignity and agency.
That's a chilling image.
Yeah.
And what about nausea?
Right.
What kind of a feeling does that evoke?
Nausea represents a profound sense of disillusionment and disgust with the state of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
a feeling of being overwhelmed by the meaninglessness and absurdity of a world that has lost its moral and spiritual grounding.
Right.
It's a feeling of being sick to one's stomach with the state of the world.
These feelings of insectification and nausea are pretty disturbing. They resonate with a lot of anxieties people feel today. That sense of being lost or adrift in a world that often feels chaotic and indifferent.
Yeah, you're right to point that out.
Yeah.
These feelings are not unique to our time. They've been expressed by philosophers and artists throughout history.
Yeah.
But the question is, how do we respond to this crisis?
Right.
How do we navigate a world that can feel so overwhelming and disorienting?
I'm eager to hear what our sources have to say about that.
Okay.
Is there a way out of this existential maze?
That's what we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll delve into the potential solutions to this crisis and the path toward a more meaningful and harmonious future.
Okay, sounds good. So we've made it to the final part of our deep dive.
Right.
We've covered a lot of ground, from ancient civilizations to the rise of materialism and this feeling of insectification and nausea that our sources describe. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
But where do we go from here? Is there any hope for overcoming this crisis?
Yeah, well, the good news is that our sources offer a potential path forward, but first they caution against two extremes.
Okay.
Amoral individualism and depersonalizing collectivism.
Okay, let's unpack those. Amoral individualism sounds a lot like every man for himself.
Right.
Where people only care about their own interests, with no regard for the well-being of others. Is that is that what we're talking about?
You got it. It's a worldview that prioritizes self-interest above all else.
Right.
Leading to a breakdown of community and a sense of social fragmentation.
Right. It's like everyone's going their own way with no shared values or goals to kind of unite them.
Exactly, yeah.
And depersonalizing collectivism, that sounds like the opposite extreme,
Right.
where individual identity is subsumed by the collective.
Right.
Kind of like the Borg from Star Trek.
Right, yeah.
Where everyone is assimilated into a hive mind and loses their individuality.
That's a great analogy.
So we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And moral individualism leads to chaos, and depersonalizing collectivism leads to oppression.
Yeah.
Is there a way out of this dilemma?
That's where the concept of a norma comes into play.
The norma.
Yeah.
We keep circling back to this idea. It's clearly important, but can we define it in simple terms? What does it actually mean?
Sure. So think of norma as your personal code, the guiding principles that shape how you live, how you interact with the world.
Okay.
It's not about a rigid set of rules imposed from above, but a set of values you choose to live by based on, knowledge, reflection, and a deep sense of moral responsibility.
So it's like an internal compass, a set of guiding principles that help us make choices that are aligned with our values.
You got it. Yeah.
But if it's personal, how does it lead to a better society?
Yeah, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
So the idea is that individuals, guided by their own personal norma, can come together to create a community organized.
A community organized around a shared commitment to certain values, even though those values are individually determined. How does that work?
Yeah, so imagine a society where people, driven by their own sense of right and wrong, come together to build a collective based on mutual respect, collaboration, and a shared commitment to the common good.
Right.
Yeah. It's a bottom-up approach to social change where individuals contribute their unique talents and perspectives to create a more just and harmonious world.
It's like we're weaving together individual threads to create a stronger, more vibrant social fabric.
Yeah.
Each person brings their own unique color and texture, but the overall tapestry is something beautiful and enduring.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And this vision of a community organized stands in stark contrast to the ancient Greek model of the state,
Okay.
where individuals were often seen as subservient to the collective.
Right.
This new model emphasizes the inherent dignity and freedom of each person, while recognizing our interconnectedness and our responsibility to contribute to something larger than ourselves.
It's like taking the best aspects of both worlds.
Yeah.
The Greek emphasis on reason and community, but infusing it with this Christian idea of individual worth.
Yeah.
And the power of personal choice.
You're getting it.
Yeah.
It's about balancing individual freedom with social responsibility, recognizing that we can achieve more when we work together towards a common goal.
Right.
And our sources emphasize that this is not some utopian fantasy. It's an achievable goal, but it requires a shift in consciousness. A recognition that true progress is not just about material advancement, but also about moral and spiritual growth.
So how do we get there?
Yeah.
What steps can we take, both individually and collectively, to move toward this vision of a community organized based on a shared norma?
Well, it starts with individual self-reflection.
Okay.
With each of us examining our own values and striving to make choices that are aligned with our personal norma.
Right.
But it also requires, open and honest dialogue with others, a willingness to listen to different perspectives, and a commitment to finding common ground, even when we disagree.
Yeah, it's about building bridges instead of walls.
Totally.
Recognizing our shared humanity, even amidst our differences.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Right.
It's a challenging task.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's about creating a world where everyone can thrive and contribute their unique gifts.
You've summed it up beautifully.
Thank you.
And as we as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought, something to kind of ponder as you continue your own philosophical explorations.
Okay.
Our sources mention the importance of municipalities, local communities in bridging the gap between the individual and the larger society.
Yeah. So the idea is that strong local communities can serve as building blocks for a more just and harmonious society.
Exactly.
It's about finding ways to strengthen local bonds, to foster a sense of belonging and shared purpose within our own communities.
Right.
Could this be a key to bridging the divide between the individual and the collective?
Right.
Creating a society that values both individual freedom and the common good. It's something to think about as we navigate the complexities of modern life.
That's a great point. It's like we need to find that sweet spot between the global and the local.
Yeah.
To create strong interconnected communities that can work together to address the challenges that we face as a global society. So this deep dive has been quite a journey.
It has.
We've gone from worshiping objects to grappling with the nature of God and humanity.
Right.
From the rise of materialism to the search for a norma that can guide us toward a more just and harmonious future.
It's been an honor to share this journey with you.
Likewise.
And remember, the quest for knowledge and meaning is an ongoing process. Keep exploring. Keep questioning. And keep striving to build a better world, one thoughtful choice at a time.
Well said, and thank you to everyone out there for listening to another deep dive.
Thanks, everyone.